The Division 3 Championship is hotting up. We're a couple of rounds into it. And Longford find themselves in joint second position. Plenty of people thought that they'd struggle up in Division 3, having come up. But with Tier 2 being a big thing this year, if you're in the top two tiers, you're guaranteed playing the Sam Maguire. If you lose or if you don't get promoted to Division 2, then you might have to play in the second tier. So to talk about that and plenty of other things beside, I'm joined by Mickey Quinn, who plays for Longford, of course. Mickey, just to talk about the first three games that you've played so far, can you get a sort of a flavour of how you've been going under Pádraig Davis this year? Because everyone talked about the players that are missing, but even just looking at the results so far, 16 points to 110 win over Louth, 10 points to all draw against Offaly, and then that victory the last day against Leitrim by 214 to 19. So can you start to give a flavour of your season so far?
Yes, I think probably one of the things myself and Pádraig Davis and Donny McGilligan, we sat down, I think it was around August, September last year, and said, look, going forward, I think we need to probably hit the ground running, and said probably from the past few years, the likes of Longford are your so-called weaker teams or tier 2 teams now, probably dismiss the Byrne Cup or treat the Byrne Cup and pre-season competitions as competitions that are kind of just building blocks for later on in the year. But probably we looked at it that it's a competition that we're in with a chance of winning, and the different competitions you're in, the Byrne Cup, the league, Leinster Championship, and in the past the Sam Maguire, the qualifiers, and of all four of them, you're probably the Byrne Cup and the Division 3 league are the two that you probably possibly can win. After that, it's out of your control, or it's a different level. So we probably sat down and looked at that, and look, we built momentum from the Byrne Cup this year, and that's carried over into the first block of 3 games in the league for us.
And where have you been going well this year? And actually, even just talking about all those players that had opted out for different reasons or what have you, is that something that you had to have a talk about within the panel, that lads, it doesn't matter who isn't here, it's all about who is?
Yeah, I think in other years that it was talked about, and look, they're not here, they're not coming, that's it. And as much as you say don't talk about it, you do. And it was like, oh geez, we could have won that if we had this or done that. But I think genuinely it was put to the back of mind, and I think that was a probably conscious effort by management, and probably it rubbed off on players then to just get on with it, and stop looking over your shoulder for someone else to walk through the door that might be coming back, that just get on with it. And I think the young lads are probably the big thing behind it all, young, naive players that are just keen to just go out and impress and play ball. So, and that's kind of stood to us. Like, we've probably, looking back, Longford against Dublin kind of got the scoreline, I think, didn't reflect that there's a lot of good players on that team. And we've had Joe Hagan, Owen Kenny, I think there's about 5 training with us, and 2 of them probably starting for a lot of the Byrne Cup and the league. So those young lads have stepped up, and I think that's what's probably driving things on at the moment. You've a good balance between young and old, and a group of lads there in the middle as well.
Like that Dublin team that you beat in the in the O'Byrne Cup, it was experimental obviously, but it was Desi Farrell's first game in charge, so I'd imagine there was a bit of local interest, and even interest with Dubs coming down to watch the game. To win that game, even though it was an experimental Dublin team, did that give you a boost considering the attention that the game was given?
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose one of the things that probably with Longford football the past number of years is backing up one win after another. And that's probably, we've built on that from the Byrne Cup and created that little bit of momentum for ourselves, because I think the qualifiers, albeit there's been some massive upsets and results there throughout the years, the hardest thing with the qualifiers is you hit a massive high one week and then you're out the following week, and you can't back it up, or that we probably haven't been able to back up consistently. And I think the league and the Byrne Cup has given us that opportunity at the moment.
Is it particularly hard to play football in this weather at the moment? Even just if we could look at the hurling from this weekend and the football from the previous weekend, like you wouldn't put ducks out in that weather. How hard is it to actually play football out there?
We've been lucky, in fairness. The 3 games that we played, we were very lucky with. I think the worst game we've played in condition-wise was, I think, the Offaly one. Slippy underfoot, mistakes. And then it's just game management. A game of 2 halves there where you could be 10 points down at half time, but you have the wind in the second half, and vice versa. You could be behind, or against the wind. It doesn't really count for a whole pile in some games there where we actually play better against it than with it. So, and teams set up differently with and without it. So that's probably the big thing, that it's very hard to gauge or game manage when those conditions come in. And I suppose when teams are so tightly matched in the different divisions, you'd love to see them played in good conditions.
Then just to even talk about how the league has gone for you so far, in terms of, you've got 5 points from 3 games. Cork were expected to, Durrell's expected to do well. They've got 3 wins so far. Then you've a glut of teams on 3 points: Derry, Down, Tipperary and Offaly. Are you surprised yourselves with the position you're in, that you can be pushing for maybe even that league final, who knows, and guaranteed being in Tier 1 in the summer?
Yeah, I suppose we just targeted that first block of games. We said that block of 3 games we're going to go after, and we'll kind of reassess now and go after the next 2 games. We probably looked at the 3 games that we were playing early on. We felt that the 3 teams that we're playing, we're going to be competing against ourselves to stay up in that division. So the fact that getting the result against those teams set us up that, okay, if it came down to head, that we should be in a good position if we win against those teams. So 2 wins and a draw has done that for us. But now the next step is to try and step on and pick up more points that we could push for promotion. So this weekend is massive for us, and probably the next 2 games, Down and Tipperary, are going to be huge.
Going to play against Down in Newry, and that's something you did 4 years ago in the qualifiers, when you went to extra time and knocked them out of the championship. Do you remember anything about that game?
Yeah, I remember probably being, it's going to be chalk and cheese now. It was a sunny summer day, and coming away from that game after playing extra time and just been absolutely spent. But look, I think probably both teams, if you look back at them, there's probably very few from both that are still involved in different managements. So it's amazing how quickly it turns around. Looking back at the Dublin and the Longford or Burren Cup game, I think that was 2015 or so, where we pipped them in Pearse Park. But I think Dublin had 8 guys playing that were household names, and I think of our panel that are still involved, we have only 3 or 4, whereas Dublin, that retention from over the years, so the turnaround of numbers has been massive for Longford. But I think we're in a good position, hopefully heading up to Newry, that if we can set ourselves up well and stay in the game for as long as possible, we'd hope that we can try and squeeze a win or get a result up there.
Because you mentioned the retention of players. I would always say, when people talk about the big counties that are successful versus other counties that are hemorrhaging players over the years, that one of the biggest reasons why a Dublin player would never dream of leaving the panel is, number 1, you have a fair chance of winning something. Number 2, the profile you get. Number 3, you're exposed to the best nutrition, the best training, a winning environment where people are pushing each other. That it just seems like you'd almost be mad to walk away from that, whereas teams that are a little bit lower down the pecking order, you probably don't have that same sort of, you don't have all the brilliant preparation, the facilities, you obviously have to commute. There's a million different reasons away from funding that just make things much more difficult. Is that, would you see some of those things as being factors?
Yeah, definitely. It's an easier choice to not be involved than it is to stay involved, especially year on year. I suppose the thing with probably the likes of ourselves and even other counties in similar positions, commuting or travelling can be difficult. As you said, facilities, and then probably an environment that you're in, whether it be the facilities or the backroom staff and backroom support that you have. But I think we've probably been lucky in the sense that there is a group of players there that have kind of put their shoulder to the wheel the last number of years and stayed around. And it's probably in other counties, maybe on maybe Tier 1, players can't really walk away and then come back. There's not too many players good enough to do that, and probably good enough to stay in that shape. Whereas I think probably players tend to drift and then come back, and kind of that continuity and staying at an elite level or a high level of fitness that you can kind of continue on from year to year. Whereas if you're drifting and back and forth, you're not really probably getting the best out of yourself and keeping that base. Whereas I think, look at the top teams, that, you know, those players that are at the top and stay at the top for that long, as soon as they walk away for 6 months or a year, to try and come back to that level is going to be twice as hard. So and I suppose that's the difficult situation that the likes of ourselves are in, that you kind of want to put things in place to try and keep lads interested, and that's something for another day.
It is indeed. What do you make of Colin McShane deciding to, you know, obviously you played in the AFL, but what do you make of Colin McShane deciding against it? And number 2, Conor McKenna, is coming back now. We don't know if or when he'll line out for Tyrone, but what did you make of Colin McShane deciding not to go?
Yeah, look at it. Probably I don't know enough of the story to probably say a whole pile on. He's probably an exception to the rule, that he's probably that bit older than a lot of other guys that went out. But as he's shown in the championship last year, he has the qualities and skills that could possibly have made it. But I suppose with any player that goes out, you're talking a 2-3 year kind of building phase to try and get to that level. And if you're going out at 20, 21, you're going to be in your mid-20s by the time you might have picked things up. And whereas if you're looking at guys that are 18 and breaking through then, so the likes of Conor McKenna, where he headed out that bit younger, and he's coming into his prime at 21, or he has that few extra years. So whether Cahill decided against, or the club decided against, I'm not sure, but it's interesting the fact that he actually gave it a shot or headed over to see. You know, it'd be interesting to hear his side of things. And then with Conor McKenna back, you know, again, probably don't know the full side of things, but it's something that every Irish guy struggles with over there, was homesickness, being that far away from home, and this is always the time that guys really find it, or I found it hard, is straight away after Christmas. You come home for maybe 2-3 weeks at Christmas time after doing a massive stint of pre-season before that, and then you go back into pre-season, and it's a massive change or shock to the system, getting on a 24-hour flight, leaving all your friends and family behind and heading halfway around the world, and you know it's going to be a long time before you see a lot of those again. So you have a lot of time thinking on a plane journey, why am I doing this, or what am I doing? And that's the difficult part. And I found that in January, February, you're still into another block of pre-season, and until the games come, it's only then when you start, kind of the weeks start flying by. Whereas pre-season can be extremely tough, especially when you're away from all your friends and family.
That's brilliant stuff, Mickey. Appreciate that, and best of luck with the rest of the Division 3 campaign.
Thanks very much, Shane.